Hi everyone, so time for another postcard from the edge and a bit of an update on the moving process. So where are we at? Well, we've kind of got over the initial euphoria of having our offer accepted on the house, and after that initial flush of excitement, reality starts to set in and you realise excuse me, that you're now entering probably the most stressful part of the whole process. Now it's time to really start working with your solicitors, get involved in the conveyancing process, and you're in that stage where time seems very short, but also time drags very, very slowly. And you're in that stage where there's a huge amount that can go wrong with the process. I think it's something like 30 to 40% of house sales in the UK fall through and don't complete, which is not a very nice figure to come across when you're doing your research. And they fall through for all sorts of reasons. People pulling out, bad surveys, people's mortgages not coming to fruition, people just changing their minds, and so chains collapsing and so on. No end of reasons. I'm sure there are hundreds of others, and so it's a very nerve-wracking time for everybody in the chain involved in the process. But what is our experience so far? And I'm thinking probably particularly about our situation moving from England to Scotland, but some of what I talk about will apply with even if you're just moving within England and so on. So we are particularly interested in keeping our conveyancing process. The conveyancing process is the process of selling your home, buying the new home, keeping that process as compact and as short as possible. It appears from research that the average time in the UK to sell a house from accepting the offer to the day you move in, so the day of completion, so in other words the day your money is handed over to the people you're buying from, the day you get the money from the people who are buying your house and so on, that all happens all on one day. The average time now in the UK is around 16 weeks, thereabouts. 20 weeks is becoming more of a norm. So you're talking 5 months, not a very nice figure to hear about when you've sold your house and you really want to get on with it, and when you know that in that time period anything can go wrong and it could all collapse. It seems like a good time period is 12 weeks. And right from the get-go, that's what I said to our solicitors. Is it possible to do it in 12 weeks? And they immediately said, sort of, hold on, steady there, steady on, Tiger. Let's take this a step at a time. We know you'll need to move quickly. We will do our best to expedite things, but we're making no promises because there's an awful lot of stuff has to happen. An awful lot of ducks have to be got in a row. Why are we so keen for things to move quickly? Because in Scotland, the house buying process tends to be shorter, and that is partly because the survey has already been done by the seller before the process starts. So sort of a chunk of the work has already been done and the buyer knows what's happening. The buyer has already got their solicitor because they have to have a solicitor put the offer in. They have to have their funds in place in order to make the offer. They already know what the survey says, so they're already in full possession of the facts. And so a lot of things have already happened that in England happen after you've made your bid on the property and your bid is accepted. And so in Scotland, sales can often go through in 8 to 12 weeks, from what I understand. I'm no expert, but that's what I understand. And our sellers had already had their offer accepted on the house that they're going to, and their seller was very, very eager to get the deal done because sadly they had got within 4 weeks of their purchase completing just last year, and their buyers pulled out, which apparently is very rare in Scotland, but it happened to them. And so they had to go right back to the beginning, put the house back on the market, and so they are, as you can understand, rightly so, nervous. They don't want it to fall through again, and they want to get it over and done with now. They've been on the market for a long time and they're very, very keen to complete. And so our sellers are eager to work with their seller, and they got sort of special permission from him to accept our offer on the house, even knowing that our offer was not a cash offer, so and that there was a chain involved, and he very kindly accepted that, knowing that it was going to go to more like 12 weeks, but he was kind of saying 12 weeks and no more. And so we've had to say we would move heaven and earth to get our deal through in 12 weeks, which is putting everybody at our end of the chain sort of under a lot of pressure. So I've done research on what can you do to accelerate or make the conveyancing process as simple as possible. Now, from what I understand, there are plans afoot to digitise the house selling process in England, and I assume Scotland, but I don't know about Scotland. Scotland is a sort of a different kettle of fish, but I would assume it would apply to Scotland as well. So at the moment in England, everything, all the documentation, everything is paper-based. It's very old-fashioned, and that's why things take so long. All the documents that have to be what the solicitors call wet ink signed, that take a physical signature, and then those documents have to be posted, and that takes ages because they post them to you. You sign them, you often have to get them witnessed by somebody who's not a member of your family, and then you have to post them back. Well, this is one of the things we're doing to expedite the process. When we get a wet ink document that has to be signed or filled in, or even a document that doesn't have to be wet ink signed, but needs to be physically completed and delivered back to our solicitor, we are physically completing it the day we receive it. And even if it's something that's been emailed to us, that has to be delivered physically back to them. Sometimes you can email documents back to them. That's great. That's really fast. We are printing them off or filling in the ones they've posted to us. And we're then getting in the car and we are driving the 8 miles to our solicitor and taking them into reception and handing them back to them. And that's taken them by surprise. It's like, oh, right, okay, you really are serious about expediting this process. And we're saying, absolutely, yes, we are. We received this morning. Here it is this afternoon. Please act on this immediately. Now, that's had an interesting effect on our solicitors because even with emails now, our solicitor is replying to our emails sometimes within 5 minutes and always within 30 minutes. Because I think they've got the message that we're really cooperating with them on making, we're not just saying we want them to, get a move on and get things done quickly, but they're seeing we're doing our part. And so maybe that would help you if you want to expedite your process. So do what you can to speed up the process. Fill in documents immediately and take them back. It's a pain in the neck. It's not convenient. But we're filling them in, getting in the car, driving straight back the same day and taking them in and handing them over and marking on the front of the envelope, fluorescent marked for the urgent attention of our solicitor's name. And that's really having an impact. If it's an email document, we are sending them back, and I'm often sending them back within 20 minutes. As soon as they hit my inbox, I stop what I'm doing, I complete it, I send it back. I'm making them see that we are deadly serious about this, and they're really getting the message. So there are forms and you will get them straight away, hopefully from your solicitor. And if you don't, email them and ask them for these forms, the TA6, the TA 10 and the TA7. Now, you will only need to fill in 2 of those forms. One of them is the leaseholder version, one is the freehold version. I think it's the TA6 and the TA7, I think, one is the leaseholder, one is the freeholder, and you will fill in either of those forms depending on whether your property is leasehold or freehold. And then I think it's the TA10, and that's like a form to do with stuff within your property. Request those immediately. The day you hire your solicitor, say, can you send me the TA forms? Get them, fill them in, hand deliver them back. The same day, the day after, get it done. Your solicitor will need the title deeds of your property. You need to know where they are. So even before you start house hunting, find them, find out where they are. Has your mortgage company got them? Have you got them? Have you paid your mortgage? In which case, did you get a company to store them for you rather than you have them on site at your property, because they're very valuable documents. Property documents are digitized now. It's the one document that is being digitized, but all the other documents are going to be eventually digitized. It's not going to help us now with our house sale, but there is a process underfoot or in the process of with the government. They are looking at getting all the documentation to do with properties digitized. And the idea is that once everything is digital, so things like land searches, mining searches, subsidence reports, right-of-way access reports, all the kind of stuff that lawyers and solicitors have to access to check property searches and to deal with property. Once it's all digital, they will be able to access it within minutes, as they can things like your energy report for your property. You have to have one of those now. If you haven't got one, get it done now. It's valid for several years. Your solicitor can access that digitally when it's done. Get it done while you're looking for your property. Don't wait until you've sold your property to get one done. If you haven't already got one, you've got to have one now. So get it done. An EPC report costs you about £100. Your estate agent can recommend a local person to do that, or you can just Google it and get a local person to do it. It'll take about a week or so to get it done. It is going to cost you about £100. Nothing you can do about that. Get it done. It is absolutely essential. It's got to go in your home buyers pack. So you might as well get on with it and get it done. And even if you change your mind and you don't end up selling, it'll be valued for a few years, and it'll be there digitally recorded, and any solicitor can access that if you decide to sell next year or something like that. But all these documents will be digital, and hopefully the idea is that selling a house will go from 12, 16, 20 weeks down to roughly 3 to 4 weeks from selling your property, getting offer accepted to completion, which will be magnificent. Doesn't help us now, but apparently it's in the process of being organised. No doubt it will take a few years to do it because there's a huge amount of paperwork to be digitised, but at least people are thinking along the right lines. So find out where your title deeds are. Your solicitor is going to need them, or is going to need to know where they are. And it is really important. You cannot sell your house without your title deeds. Everything will freeze, everything will stop. Get it sorted out before you even, put your house on the market, even get it organised. When you're filling out the TA forms, when you're filling out the fittings and contents form and so on, do everything 100% honestly. Be absolutely upfront about this stuff. There may be some questions you're disinclined to be honest about. It is absolutely imperative you're 100% honest about this stuff. It will come back and bite you. Trust me. Do not hide anything. Do not conceal anything. If anything, put extra explanatory information. Much better to be clear about this stuff, in my opinion. I'm not a legal expert. Take legal advice. Talk to your estate agent. Talk to your lawyer. Don't listen to me. But I think it is much better in these things to be honest than to have somebody come back and sue you later if you conceal that you have got Japanese knotweed, that you have got subsidence, that you've been having rows with your neighbour, that the guy who lives behind you is an axe murderer or whatever, because all this stuff is now in the form and you are obligated to declare it. That may seem like a disadvantage to you if you do have some, skeletons in the closet to do with your house or to do with your neighbourhood or something like that. But it is also a benefit to us with the house we're buying, because there should be no bad news that you're unaware of about your neighbours, or about boundary disputes, or about Japanese knotweed or something like that with the property you're buying. So this has all been put in place legally in recent years because of horror stories that people have had, and it is done to protect your buyer, and it is done to protect us, and so we should all be working together on this, and we all have to accept it. And if you've got some horror stories around your house, get them sorted out before you put your house on the market. If you've got if you've done a loft conversion and you didn't get planning permission, get retrospective planning permission. Whatever it is that you've got going on, get it sorted, and so on. It is really important that this stuff is all dealt with. Ambiguity and trying to hedge things in the way you word things. Solicitors know what they're doing, and it is a solicitor who's going to be reading those forms, and they're doing this. Conveyancing solicitors are doing this every day. They know all the tricks in the book, and they will come back and they will want clarification. And if they think that you're being underhanded, they will be down on you like a ton of bricks, and they will red flag you to your buyers. So I just warn you. My policy right from the word go was to be absolutely upfront about everything. Not that we had anything, but I made sure that we filled in everything and gave lots of information. Also, something you can do while you're looking for property, before you even get to the point of selling your property, which will save you an awful lot of heartache and hassle and grief down the line once you've sold it, and will speed up the conveyancing process and will really help your solicitor, is to gather all the other relevant documentation that you're going to need. So if you've knocked a wall down in your house, your builder will have given you a certificate to show that you have had building regs approval with the RSJ that they put in, to show that the building regs have been met. If you've had your boiler serviced, your plumber or gas engineer will give you a certificate to show that they are qualified to do the work and that it has been done properly and that everything is okay with the boiler or the gas fire or the gas cooker or whatever it is. The appliance is up to spec. And if you have had new windows, double glazing or something like that fitted, you will have a fencer certificate provided to you by your installers. You might have forgotten that you've been given this bit of paper in the thrill of getting your windows fitted, but you will have been given this. You will have put it somewhere, hopefully in a lovely ring binder that you have somewhere for all your household stuff. Gather all these certificates and bits of paper. If you've got solar panels on the roof, you will have had an installation compliance certificate for it. If you've had major electrical works, your electrician will have given you a compliance certificate. All this stuff is normal now when you use pucker installers. If you've used cowboys, this is when it's going to come back and bite you. This is when you are going to pay for having cheap work done, because now you're going to find out it wasn't cheap. And this is when you're going to find out that all of a sudden you've got to have structural engineers come in and electrical engineers and gas engineers and so on to check that the work is compliant. If it isn't compliant, you're going to have the work redone and so on. That's now when the nightmares are going to start. So gather all these certificates. I'm sure you've had it all done properly. I bought a folder and I put all this stuff in, and I also gathered together all the domestic appliances that we're leaving for our buyers. I gathered all the guarantees and all the manuals for them and put them all in. I just made a nice pack up for our buyers so that the day they arrive, the solicitor doesn't just give them, or the estate agent doesn't just give them the keys. gives them this lovely pack. It's got everything they need, and they're not going to be ringing me up and saying, how do you turn the boiler on? How does the washing machine work? Blah, 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 blah. They've got everything they need. It's a nice feeling, and we really want to take care of the people who are buying our house. I'm also going to make them a video. I'm going to do a walk around, show them where everything is, where the stopcock is, where the meter cupboard is. I did all those kind of things when we were giving them the guided tour of the house when they were buying, having the tour around. But after a few months, you forget all that stuff. So I'm going to make them a video they can download, and hopefully it'll answer a lot of their questions. And that's the kind of thing you can be doing in preparation, just to make the handover much smoother. It's not necessary for the solicitors and so on, but I think it just makes the whole process much nicer, much smoother, and
I found this on the web.
It just makes things much better for everybody. And I think if the house buying process can be made nicer for everybody, rather than people ending up being enemies at the end of buying a house, where everybody gets all bitter and twisted and is trying to gazump each other or gazunder people, and making it all about money and what they can get out of it and so on. The world will be a much nicer place. What else can you do? Stay in contact with your conveyancer. There's no harm in emailing your solicitor once a week and just saying, haven't heard anything this week, can you just give me a quick update? Any progress? Is there anything I can do to help? Anything I can do to move things on? Any good? Is no news good news? No problem with doing that, and just make sure that they're aware that you're available to answer any questions, do anything, and so on. If you've got a mortgage involved in the transaction, be prompt with your mortgage company. Be honest with them about your income, about your deposit, where your funds are coming from, all that kind of thing. You're going to have to provide a huge amount of financial information to your mortgage company, and also to your solicitor and to your seller's solicitor. They're going to want to know that you're financially, you've got the financial wherewithals. So be prepared for quite intrusive questioning about your financial wherewithals, because at the end of the day, this is about whether you can afford to do what you're saying you can do. So be ready for that. Have information ready. You've got to prove who you are, so be prepared to provide your driving license details, or your passport details. You have to prove who you are. Have that all ready to go, and expect to do that. Don't kick against that, and do it quickly and on time. Make sure you've paid up any outstanding charges, service charges, ground rent, anything like that, because any unpaid bills can freeze everything. If there's any bad debts or anything like that on your property, it may freeze things. Because credit checks are being done on you, they're going to go into your financial situation in a huge amount of detail. So make sure everything is straight, because this is probably going to be one of the most intensive investigations into your financial standing that is going to be taking place, because of the amount of money that is likely to be involved. Get quotes for your removal firm in advance. We're moving in August, the worst time of the year to move. Everybody apparently wants to move in August. It's the most expensive time to move. I'll do another video about that, because that's a whole other horror story. But get 3, 4, 5 companies to quote. You will be amazed at the spread of prices you get on removal companies, and I'll talk about removal companies. But do that early, even though you won't be able to give them a completion date early on. Start to get some idea about what prices are involved, and you will get a feel for the good guys and the bad guys, and the people who you trust with your stuff, and do that early on, so that you're starting to make preparations for that. Get your ducks in a row, because the last few weeks it's going to go crazy, and you want to know what you're doing and what's going on. and that will help you. And start packing. We are living in cardboard box hell right now. We probably started a little bit early, but we had a lot of sorting out to do. So we have done the whole car boot sale thing. We're 4 car boot sales down the line. We haven't made as much money on car boot sales as we did when we moved here 21 years ago. People on car boot sales are not paying as much money as they used to for stuff. They don't really want to part with hardly any money at all. That's been our experience this time. The income from car boot sales last time really helped us with our removal costs and our solicitors' costs. This time, 4 car boot sales, a lot of really good quality stuff, and it's gone for a pittance. We probably would have made more money selling through eBay and so on, but we just haven't got the time to do all the packing and wrapping and going back and forth to the post office and all that kind of stuff. And it's been a bit heartbreaking, really, but we had to shift it. We've very gladly given a load of stuff to charity shops, and we've sold a few things on Facebook Marketplace, and that's been okay as well. That's been good for some sort of large items that we didn't want to put through eBay and so on. And we're probably going to sell some clothes and stuff on Vinted once we've moved. We'll give that a bash, but we haven't really done that yet. But that has helped us reduce a load of stuff, which, if anything, has saved us a huge amount of removal costs, because we now know from talking to the removal companies, we would have had to have gone up a vehicle size, and that would have been a huge increase in our removal costs, which are huge anyway. So get rid of as much stuff as you can before you start packing up, and that cleansing feeling is wonderful. And a load of stuff is, just rubbish has gone to the tip as well, which has been good as well. Stuff not suitable to sell, not suitable for charity shops, just absolute rubbish and junk that we should have got rid of long ago. So that's been really great. So our loft is empty, our attic is completely empty, which is brilliant. And we've done probably 80% of our boxing up. We're getting very close to completion on boxing up. So that's really good. So that's something you can get well ahead with. But I'll do another video on that side of things down the line. Okay, so there we are. There's a few tips on speeding up the conveyancing process. Just from an England-Scotland point of view, I'm somewhat aware that our Scottish solicitor and English solicitor are not really talking to each other much at the moment. I think that's because they don't really need to at the moment. We're getting to the point where we're starting to get close to talking about exchange of contracts and completion dates. So there's 2 dates involved. Exchange of contracts is the day when everybody signed the contracts. Everybody does that a few weeks before. Then around about usually 2 weeks to a week before you complete, in other words, removal day, the contracts are exchanged. And really that's the day when everything is shut down, locked down, everybody's absolutely committed. Yes, in between exchange of contracts and completion, people can still pull out. We could pull out, our buyers could pull out, the chain could still collapse, technically, but it is very rare that happens. It does happen, but there are huge financial implications. Basically, everybody else in the chain can sue the person who pulls out, who causes it to collapse, for all the costs involved, and the costs involved at that stage are high. And the bigger the chain, the higher the costs, and you really got to want to pull out at that stage, and it's a massive financial decision to do that, and it's not got to be done lightly, but it does happen. But normally what the solicitors say is that once you've got exchange of contracts, you can book your removal companies, it's game on basically. So we're hoping that will be sort of 2 weeks or so before our removal date, and then it's all stations go. And so really I think our 2 solicitors And this is where it's different. Normally you've only got one solicitor working for you in England. If it's in England, Wales kind of move, England to England move. And because we're going to Scotland, we've got two solicitors, and they're very soon going to have to start talking to each other about this date and how the contract's going to be exchanged, so that everybody is all aligned, and everybody has to agree. All the mortgage companies have to agree. In our case, there's no mortgage involved, but we are reliant on the money coming in from the sale of our house, and that money is going to pay for the house we're buying. And so on the day that we complete, that's the day the money moves from everybody along the chain. And from the first time buyer, who's usually at the start of the chain, or the cash buyer at the start of the chain, the first thing in the morning, their money moves to the next person in the chain, and then their money moves to the next person in the chain, and so it goes on until you get to the last person in the chain. And you get your call from your estate agent and your solicitor to say, yeah, the money's moved. You can go and take your keys into the estate agent, and you can leave the property. You're good to go. You're off to your new home. So that's what we're waiting for. So that's the only thing I've been aware of really at the moment, is that the two solicitors don't seem to be talking to each other, but I think it's because they don't really need to at the moment. And I'm hoping that sort of conversation will be going up. But when I'm emailing either of them, I'm copying them both in. So they're aware of each other, and they know about my conversations with both of them. I want to make sure that they know what I'm saying, both of them, when it's things that involves, I feel, both of them, because I want there to be no misunderstandings. Okay, that's quite enough. I've been going over about half an hour now, but hopefully that's brought you up to date, and maybe you get a feel for all the things that are going on, all the balls that are in the air, and just how stressful this period can be. I'll do another video on surveys as well, because that's a whole other thing too. But that's enough for me. Thank you very much for tuning in.